This is the Business Growth Hacks Podcast, presented by Beefy Marketing. Here's your host, Andrew Brockenbush.
Welcome back to another episode of the Business Growth Hacks Podcast. We've got a great guest in store for you guys. John, how's it going, my man?
I am excellent as always. Had some amazing breakfast tacos this morning, so that has set the day off in the right direction.
Yeah, courtesy of our friend Joey. Thanks, Joey. If you listen to our podcast, my friend, thanks for the breakfast tacos this morning. We need the fuel to get the day going, right? Because we've got a lot on our plate this morning. But we've got an incredible guest for you guys, Orsolya Herbein. I'm hoping I'm doing it justice. She's a partner at Brand 3. She knows if you don't have a clear message and an image, you could be wasting as much of 80% of your marketing budget. She is here with some actionable ways to help business owners rethink marketing and to stop wasting time and money and accelerate business growth with her unique perspective as a visual problem solver. Orsolya is a great asset to have with us. Orsolya, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we are super excited. I mean, obviously, we're all in the line of business, of marketing. Our audience out there are business owners who are obviously looking for every way to maximize their marketing budgets. You know, it can be expensive to do marketing, especially just kind of depending on what business you're in and the industry you're in. But before we jump deep, deep dive into that, let's kick this thing off with an icebreaker. All right, here's the icebreaker for you, Orsolya. What is a recipe you make that always reminds you of home?
Oh, that's so easy.
All right, bring it on.
My American husband, because I'm originally from Hungary, would bring out the iron kettle and a tripod, light a fire outside, and we make Hungarian paprika crumpli over the fire outside.
Ooh, so talk to us about that, because I don't even know what that means. So what is that?
Well, what you need to know about Hungarian food, according to my husband, let me just break it down how he sees it. Is whatever it is, just smother it in paprika and put a slice of bread next to it, and you'll be good. But
Nice.
All Hungarian food starts with very simply and very much the same. It's like you cut up your onions, you render some fat either from bacon or any kind of meat, or just use butter or oil. And then, so we have this kettle over the fire, and you throw in your oil, you throw in your onions until they glaze, nice and clear.
Nice.
And you get your meat in there, your salt and pepper, your crap ton of paprika, and potatoes, and then you fill it up with water just until it's covered. You close it, and then you let it simmer until everything cooks and then kind of reduces so it's thicker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you don't need anything thickening because the potatoes will do the job, right?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of that starch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you serve it with sour cream. Everything sour.
All right.
Cream, onions and paprika.
I think I get down with that. So it's kind of like a little bit like a stew,
Yeah.
but with some. Okay. All right. I'm down with
I
that.
know, it kind
John,
of
what
sounds
about
like
you, man?
gumbo to me. Replace the paprika
Yeah,
with cayenne,
kind of,
and we got
yeah.
Cajun cooking. So I think I'm in.
I'm about it. John, what is your cooking it and it goes to home for you?
Man, I'm gonna have to go with chicken fried steak, I think, because it's one of my first
that's a classic for
favorites,
us.
and it's always a comfort food no matter what. And it's not really good for you. It has to just be a comfort food. So
That's right.
I think chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes, green beans. It's a good meal right there.
Yeah, for sure. That was honestly, that was the first meal that came into my head, because anything my mom made with mashed potatoes and a green bean, so meatloaf or something like that was always good. But I think another favorite for me would probably be chicken and dumplings.
Oh.
Good chicken and dumplings.
That is a staple.
That's nice. It's a staple too. So
Yeah, I did not like
that's a
chicken
good
and
one.
I did not like chicken and dumplings until my wife made it for me. Actually,
really.
really, my whole life growing up, I never really liked it, and then my wife made it, and I don't know if I just like her recipe best. That's what I'm gonna say for now.
Probably so.
But-
Well, our intern, Rosie, who helps us put together our show outline, she actually left us with her recipe.
Oh.
Hers would be something called cheese and onion pie. So Rosie's actually from the UK, so I have no idea what cheese and onion pie is. So I guess we'll have to do some Googling later.
Yeah,
But
I asked her
that
about
is her favorite. It's so funny. Look, onions. All of our recipes have onions. I'm pretty sure that's like a.
I think
like
it's
a
one of
thing.
the base elements as far
It's like
as cooking.
it's a base ingredients.
Yeah,
That's
you
right.
the food
it's
pyramid
funny
should
'cause
look different. It should start with onions.
Just 2 weeks ago, there was a lady who writes about different kind of cooking this year in her blog. She came over to my house and we made that. So there's a blog about this that I can send you guys.
Oh, you're gonna
Oh,
have
yeah.
to.
Everything.
That's cool.
And one of the quotes that I gave her was what my mom always said: if you want something to taste good, put onion in it. If you want it to taste better, put more onion in it.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
really good. Well, that's a fun
Hold on, I'm gonna write
icebreaker.
that
Now
one
I'm
down.
hungry. But well, you're the co-founder of a company called Brand 3. Y'all are a virtual digital marketing agency. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the company, kind of how you guys got started and who you're serving today?
Sure. So we are a branding company disguised in the word of marketing, and
Okay.
that is who we are. But we realized that branding is not something our customers want. Your branding doesn't hurt, right? It's your marketing that isn't working. It's your marketing that isn't getting you the results. It's the marketing that you want to fix, et cetera, et cetera. So we had to drink our own Kool-Aid and come up with messaging and an image for ourselves that invites in our ideal audience who actually wants to fix their marketing. But we firmly believe at Brand 3 that the way to fix your marketing is to build a brand that engages an audience, because marketing is you pushing your brand out there, and if it is not connecting with an audience, or if it is not consistent across the board, and you were effective with your marketing material, but you weren't, when they checked you out, they weren't finding the same things. There's a lack of trust that's happening. And it is really how we help our customers rethink marketing. So rethink marketing is our disguise world to kind of lure them in and educate them about the power of brand that will make marketing work.
Now, how'd you get your start in the industry? Because there's a lot of us, right? So how did you get your start in the world of branding and marketing?
Well, I as a little girl, I always wanted to be an artist. I won an international drawing competition when I was 3 years old. It's like
Wow, you were killing it at 3.
Yeah, I know, 3 years old, right? I drew 2 bunnies in the grass, but I guess that was pretty advanced for.
It was very
3-year-old.
advanced.
Yeah. So, but I kind of knew early on that I'm not a Picasso that can make a living with fine art while I'm alive, etc. So I stumbled upon graphic design, and I loved graphic design because I love being creative, but also fine art is too vague to me, and graphic design gives me a challenge because it gives me walls, right? The customer has to like it, it has to communicate, it has to be beautiful, it has to be functional, it has to serve a purpose. So like I have all these boxes that I'm creating within, and I enjoy very much the challenge of that. So then as a graphic designer, I met my business partner who was a brand strategist, and he used me as his go-to designer for years and years before we put our businesses together. But when I met Matt is when I realized that I've been doing branding, because I was always such a stickler about consistency. I was always such a stickler about, having some sort of a base foundation to everything that I do. So it's not just hodgepodge and everything looking different. So that's kind of how it all started for me. And now that I've merged my business with him, I'm kind of almost only doing just creative direction and a lot of brand strategy, because I just enjoy this whole alignment. How can we align clarity of message and image with an audience that will actually resonate with that?
Yeah, that's really cool. So, I mean, obviously you have your degree. You actually have a bachelor's in graphic design? Is that right?
Design, yeah.
That's awesome. It's crazy how much like you start to bridge from like the design branding side to like kind of the full package of what we do and what we offer. My degree is not in graphic design, but I kind of got my start in the industry the same way. Someone asked me to design them a t-shirt, and that t-shirt kind of turned into this full brand package, and then that full brand package turned into a website, and before I knew it, it's been almost 10 years, and all of the things that we do are so much wider just than the original design work that I did. So it's really cool to see that your background was very similar. What are some of the big pain points that you guys are addressing when it comes to customers who are reaching out to you? What are some of the challenges that business owners are facing, and how do you guys help solve those?
Sure. So, usually the primary problem for customers is marketing, right? So they come to us with a bunch of unqualified leads. They're not getting returns. They're spending too much, and it's just, a waste. And it is because they literally started building a tower and they just skipped the foundation, and now they're building the second floor and it's about to collapse, right? Because nothing's holding it up, right? That's kind of what I say to everyone who goes to marketing first before really thinking through what the brand is and what is it that, we should project outwards, right? So in the past, when I used to be the branding company, we would have a major disconnect. Like, oh, I don't need that. Branding is for Nike and Coca-Cola. I'm too small for branding. Or I already have a brand. I have a logo and a website and blah, blah, blah. And, there's all these misconception about what branding is. But branding truly is nothing but a perception. And that perception takes place in the mind of the viewer, right? You put something in front of me. I'm going to start formulating thoughts and feelings about it. And I'm going to ask myself, what's in it for me? And if I can't get an answer within like 3 seconds, then see ya, right? So there's a huge need for clarity of showing up as something that somebody would desire, and to show up to the right people, right? So, people just market, but they still haven't even gotten the legwork done on who my ideal customer is, right? So that's kind of the main point that we solve, marketing pain. But brand also resonates internally. So I say externally for marketing, but internally to build a culture. Every brand essentially makes a promise that appears on your marketing material. Like, hey, if you walk in this door, we're going to get you here, right? Now you need if you don't want to be like a solopreneur for the rest of your life, and you want to grow a business, you need a team who's going to be able to deliver that promise. And, as a business owner, part of our agenda is always to have the team do it like we would do it, because, we all start small and then grow. But then how does that get, encompassed into the brand, and how does that help you deliver that promise and deliver it so that your customers have an exceptional experience? So here at Brand 3, what we do is not only just look at marketing in silos, but we look at brand, marketing, and customer experience together and create a plan that's unified and strategic that takes into consideration all of those, right? And to build a brand, sometimes one of the best place business owners can go is to their existing customers. Like, hey, tell me what you like. Let me hear your voice. What is it that you perceive us being? And then if you ask 10 customers, you get very similar answers, or we, sometimes put in a word cloud those keywords that they're using to describe the organization. And then now we're starting to see what the perception is. And is that truly what we want to be? Does it align with the owner's vision? I mean, it's kind of why I think it's so hard for businesses to do branding themselves, right? Because you're too in it, Absolutely. And my job is constantly being that outside perspective and putting myself in the shoes of your ideal customers and looking at it like, well, would this make sense to me? Would this be something that I would engage with, et cetera, So, so it solves owner dependency. It solves, a broken culture or turnover, because you can build a team that is really, kind of like becomes an ambassador of your brand, right?
Yeah.
It solves marketing problems and pain points. So these are the kind of things that you can solve with a good on-point brand.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of business owners who are probably afraid to ask their existing customers what they think about you.
Yeah.
You know, just because of the fact that, like, especially a solopreneur or a lean company where they've tried to be everything for everyone for so long, they have probably lost sight of what the customer experience looks like after maybe the initial sale. Because everything's great when everyone's high-fiving and you're first coming on and it's all warm and fuzzy. But then when a customer's been with you for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, like, have you kind of let them go unnoticed, and like there's a little cobwebs in the room because you've just not given them the amount of attention and energy that you first did when you first met them, and you were kind of in that courting phase, right, of the relationship. And I think that that's scary as businesses to ask those questions. But I think what you said that it solves is the exact reason why we have to step out of our comfort zones and ask those questions, so that you can become less dependent.
And you know, there's really a very easy way to understand it. You know, even if you have 30 customers, you gotta have 2 that are your favorites.
Yeah.
You know, you just love working with. And
Sure.
we actually ask a customer, like, hey, who is it? Oh, it's Bob. Well, tell me about Bob. Let's learn everything we can know about Bob, because we need more Bobs. And then I asked this
That's
question,
right.
like, hey, what would happen to your business if like 100 Bobs walked in here next year?
Mhm.
Like,
Wow.
yes, that'd be awesome. That's
Well, we need to
like
build
that's
a brand that attracts
right.
Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Bob is a key person in, like, hey, is this right? You know, let's vet it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, let's
Yeah.
kind of like prototype what we think, and then let's show it to Bob and say, is this kind of how we came through for you, or solved the problem, or got you from here to here,
Yeah. Does
whatever,
this appeal
whatever,
to you?
right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
So do not be afraid of asking, because, I think, first of all, having negative feedback is useful information. You know, it,
100%.
it helps guide you, like, okay, well, I don't even want to be the brand who holds on to customer for 3 to 4 years, because it is going to turn into a cobweb for whatever reason. And my ideal customer stays with me for 18 months or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
like, really, you can be deliberate. So what I'm telling people all the time is that whether you have thought about it or not, you have a brand, because every time you push something in front of somebody, you're going to be perceived somehow. But
Mhm.
we can be intentional, and you can
But
be
yeah,
deliberate
absolutely.
about designing that perception and inviting in the people that you want to work with, and just avoiding the ones that you don't,
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
that's like such good insight, because I think that, again, I think some people are afraid to have that critical feedback, but it's so valuable to growing your business and to getting out. I mean, like you said, if tomorrow all of the customers were your favorite customer, like, what does that do for your experience as a business owner? What does that do for the culture of the team and how they show up every single day and the amount
Yeah.
And
of
what does
effort
it
that
do
they
to
put
your
out?
bottom line?
That's
Right.
right.
You know?
Yeah, I mean,
Because I think customers that are ideal are probably are pretty profitable, because it's easy to serve them. Also, because you're building a team that works out of their heart, right?
that's
Like,
right.
it's
Versus
like,
just being like, oh, it's another thing to do.
you always got to remember why you started doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? And when you start doing things that you don't love doing, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's when, like, I'm I'm okay at it, but I'm best at this. It's the same thing with me and branding. I was like always marketing, marketing. I honestly, when it comes to like tactical marketing, I hate it personally. I
Yeah.
need team members who love that, because I don't like it. I love
Yep.
branding. I love brand strategy, but branding doesn't sell. It's not the candy that they would go for. It's the marketing candy that they would go for. And
Yeah.
I needed to like kind of swallow a big one and say, crap, I'm going to be the marketing company as I'm perceived, because
Sure.
that's how I'm going to get to meet my ideal customers, you know?
100%.
And then the process is educational. And by the time they leave, they will learn the right way to market, which is our tagline, brand 3, the right way to market, because
Nice.
I will teach them the right way to market is to have a brand that engages an audience, right?
Yeah. So you talk a lot about brand first approach. I mean, really, what does that mean to you? Like, if you could communicate that to someone else, like, what does brand first mean?
It means that you don't build your tower on the second floor. You build the foundation first, really.
That's yeah.
It is the foundation. Brand
Well said.
leads marketing, brand leads sales, brand leads hiring, brand leads, PR. I mean, all of the things that you would be doing, your brand leads. Brand could lead your operations and your business development areas of the business, And I'm going to be honest with you. Ideally, I think you've went down the wrong road a little bit, because I think it's harder to brand a startup who has no customer yet, or no experience on delivering a certain type of service or product. So, what is ideal for me is really those refreshes that we have to do. Like, there is something that's working in the business. An ideal customer for me would have an exceptional product or service, but a real shitty brand that doesn't reflect that.
Yeah.
My perception is like, oh my gosh, is this like a mom and pop store from like I don't know, the boonies or whatever? But their iced tea is like amazing, and everybody's talking about them, and they get 5-star reviews. But when you look at them, they're like, what? It's so easy to build a brand that's like, that transformation from like the weird and inconsistent, and like, logo appears like stretched here and 9 different times, and it's like on the t-shirts it's like this, and it's like that on the truck. It's like all over the place. To brand a business like that and give it a consistent professional looks that actually starts reflecting what's inside, reflecting the greatness of that product and service is a mind-blowing experience. And that's kind of where we wow our customers. And then, and only then, you're ready to go to market.
Yeah, that's
and
powerful.
spend money on marketing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
think a lot
love
of times
your
people spin
approach there.
fast.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times a small business owner, especially a startup, because it is hard to brand something that doesn't have a client base, they'll just kind of use the shotgun method and just start throwing stuff out there. Instead of defining who it is they're actually trying to reach, they just start throwing stuff out at random, and whatever sticks. But the way that you're approaching branding here, and I think it's sort of the way that we approach branding as well, creating that good foundation is going to give you something to build upon, and it's not going to take away from what you're doing. You can take away from your product, like the 5-star reviews, but that you don't see how do they have these good reviews, but the brand isn't there. I think that's awesome.
Obviously we've kind of gone over a few different pain points. There's a lot, right? Like you and I could probably talk for days about the pain points that business owners struggle with, and even ourselves, right? Like we're not like immune to the challenges that other business owners face. We're human, obviously. But what would you say is like the most important pain point that business owners should maybe tackle first before spending money, before hiring an agency, before, even before designing a logo? What are the pain points to be solved early on in a business?
Yeah. So I think the very, very first step, and that's our first step always, is to define your ideal customer. And the next step after that is to define what they value. Businesses make the mistake of talking about themselves all the time. Oh, we're family owned, 35 years in business. Nobody cares. Well, they care, but first you have to tell them why they should care, right? So if I come to you and say, a branding and marketing firm with 35 years of experience, you're like, yawn, I don't care.
Right.
But if I tell you like, learn I don't know, learn how to rethink marketing and grow your business. That's much more of speaking to a value that they want, right? Like I value that. I want to grow my business. And now you said marketing, and that's kind of what I'm struggling with. I'm paying attention, right? So one of our niche audience is these home professional audience. Like they serve residents, like roofers or landscapers
Yeah.
and things like that. So typical of them to make the mistake of, like, talking about themselves,
Yep.
uh, always talk about themselves. But for example, we had a landscaping company. They were building exceptional pools, like they're beautiful pools. But even their name said landscaping, and it's like, what? So, and the owner came in and said, I want to run an ad in like this high-end magazine, and we're like, don't do it. You're wasting your money. Nobody's,
Right.
well, I'm after the elite market. I'm like, the elite market is looking at brands like Porsche, Rolex, Prada, and you're gonna come in with your, Leaf logo, and then you tell them that you're gonna build an exceptional, outdoor living space for their backyard. No, this is, it's
Yeah.
not, there's a disconnect. So we rebranded them. They went from Woodfield Landscaping to Woodfield Outdoor Living. You know, and
Nice.
they went. Their main pull in is, you deserve an exceptional outdoor living experience. Not as a lead customer. Yeah, I do. I got the money. I'm started looking at this shitty ass backyard. I want
Yeah.
I want paradise.
I do deserve more. I deserve paradise.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly. I work hard. So that resonates with that audience, right? Now, for a landscaper who's mows lawns, again, there's value points that you can bring, and if you gotta go deeper than commodity.
Yeah.
It cannot be
Absolutely.
about the price, because someone can always be cheaper.
Yep.
It's like, just let's, what else is in it? To me, mowing lawn is like almost like a peace of mind, something that I can like put away because you take care of it. So like, let's get a little bit deeper and aspirational in what it means to engage your brand, and let's speak it really clearly. We creatives, we love being creative, but sometimes
Yes.
it pays off being literal.
Yeah.
And even creating identities that you can look at it and say, oh, that's a marketing company, because just from the logo you can tell that it's a marketing company, or just from the logo you can tell that it's a landscaping company. It's important because nobody's gonna give you time. Nobody's gonna sit there and like, well, let me see if I can spend 25 minutes reading through these paragraphs on this website and figure out what these guys do. Nobody's gonna do it.
Yeah.
You have very little time to get attention, and that's where clarity comes in. And the way you engage is that you elevate value high level. Stop talking of yourself. Start talking about what's in it for them, and that's how you present a brand that will engage Bob's.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just spot on. Like, I have nothing to add because it's just so good, And I think that that's certainly, like, I align with everything you're saying. I love the fact that, like, after you define your customer, because like that's the one thing like I think every branding agency can align with. It's like discover who your target persona is, your perfect customer. But what does your customer value? That is the question I feel like a lot of branding agencies fail to ask their branding clients, right? Which is the most important branding question, because if you want to properly communicate and properly, create a user experience designed and tailored around your ideal Bob or your ideal customer, then you have to define what they value. I mean, your Porsche high-profile client example is a perfect example. We have a great example right now. We're working on a branding job for a real estate agency, and she kind of selected her top 3 logos from a lineup of a few concepts that we had put together, and she had selected these top 2, and we kind of said, okay, if you really want to go after the high-profile clients, one of these is very clearly not the one. And once I was able to kind of like speak to her about that and help her understand that, it was like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, she was just thinking like, oh, I think that looks cool. Oh, I think that looks fun. And it was like, yeah, that's great. Like, of course we want to design some things that we'll still be proud of and appreciate and be drawn to, but we really have to put ourselves in the position of the people we're trying to attract, because those are the people that we have to appeal to, not our own self, right? It's just like the website communication. Like it's always, well, I want more text on the website about the company and about me and about the partners and the team members. It's like no one, like you said, no one really cares. Like, what can you do for me? How can you fix a pain point for me? How are you going to help me take my business to the next level? And then once you've earned my trust in that way, okay, now I'd like to learn a little bit more about you guys.
Yeah, exactly. There's
Right?
secondary information.
That's
Maybe if I
right.
have 3 brands in front of me that I'm considering going with, and one of them is family owned, I'll go with them
Yeah.
because it's important to me.
For sure.
But it's very secondary, and I think putting that out first is the number one mistake that I see all the time. Another one is, if you go through this process and really figure out who you are to your audience, right? And just remember what you said is very true. You're building the brand not for yourself. You're building it for your customers because they are the one who have to engage with it, right?
Yep.
So just keep that in mind all the time. But then, what it also helps is, some business owners are so visionary. They're like, oh, I have an idea. And then now, the whole team is finding themselves like running in 9 different directions. We're like, kind of like, oh my gosh, we just started this way. Now we're going this way. Now we're going this way. It helps you vet ideas against your promise. So if you have, you come up with a great idea, it might be a great idea, but might be a completely separate business that needs to be tackled down the road somewhere, whatever. Don't try to shove everything in to your business, especially not because it's a trend or people are trying to do it or blah, blah, blah. The relevancy to who you are has to be there. Otherwise, you're diluting your brand with all these extras, and now there is no focal point. There's no focus. Also, some of the things that people put in their brand in the very beginning, in that first engagement, it really is like a phase 2 stuff. You know what I mean? Like for me, I'm really all about just selling discoveries because that's my number one step. I can't do anything. It's kind of like a doctor's appointment. Like you go to the doctor and tell them your knee hurts. They're not going to tell you, let's operate. First they're going to examine you. Like, to build a brand, you got to examine what's going on. You got to take into consideration the owner's visions and goals. Then, what the business stands for. And then some of the processes and how they deliver it. Some of the things that customers said, et cetera, right? There's an examination process, right? So I'm selling the discovery. 99.9% of the chance is that everybody else is going on to the next step. So, I'm not going to bore or create a proposal and try to like write into all these things because it's just going to blow people's mind. They don't get it. The discovery is my chance to be like, really tailored and allows me to scope the next phase. But it doesn't need to be visible, from the outside. Like, that's they're not going to buy your product for phase 2 or whatever. I mean, I can show end results. I can show outcomes. I can tell that, the landscaping company that had served the elite market went from 2 million to 10 million within 2 years, and they were doing the same marketing tactics, but they just went out there with a brand that worked, I can tell those things, but, I don't need to like, bore them with all the stuff that's going on because they're not going to get it. It's too complicated. We need to stay high level on that brand image and message and not, throwing technical words. Sometimes, IT companies, I see this all the time. They have like this, they talk about the megabytes and the gigabytes and the whatever. Your ideal customer is a business owner. They don't understand what you're talking about.
That's why they called you.
They just want they just want their email to work. You know what I mean? Right. So you have to speak marketing language and gear far away from the technical lingos. If your market is not able to resonate with that, you're That's losing them right there. Like, I don't know what that means.
Moving on. You definitely don't want to do that. Yeah. I mean, that's, I love that discovery component because I think this applies, obviously it applies to the world that we come from, the agency world and the marketing world, but really it applies to any industry. I mean, obviously, you just brought up the example with the IT companies, but I mean, it'd be like me going out to a club or to a bar and meeting someone who I thought was attractive and then saying like, "Will you marry me?" It's like, whoa, like slow down,
Breaks.
Like you don't know like how do we see life? Do you want kids? Do you want like, do you even care about marriage? Like, what are your
Do I hear a
views
little
on
Donald
politics?
Miller here?
Yeah, right. Like it's that
Did
little
you read
Donald
Story
Miller,
Brand?
right? I think so. That story brand, that
He's
outline there,
amazing.
right?
We use Story Brand all the time because he really nailed it. He really nailed it. Like, he's the one who's who really, I think, simplified how to market with clarity, and then
That's
just
right.
that connection, and then what are the components of it, and that dating aspect of like, hey, it takes 7 to 10 touches before somebody engages.
That's right.
What do we do? And then let's give away as much as we can. Miller is really great at that, because he knows that he's still gonna benefit from it. Like it's let's not be afraid of giving away information, because I think it's valuable information, and what it does is helps you establish yourself as an expert, right?
That's right. And you build a lot of trust in that way too. I mean, I've gotten
and what
clients
is the number one driver for engagement? Trust.
Yeah, trust. Yeah,
that's the only like you show up as an expert, and you stop asking for them to do business with you all the time, but you just saying, hey, you know what, if you're having unqualified leads, maybe try this and this and this, and then 1 minute video or 30-second video, little tidbits of valuable information, and next thing you know, are like, man, these guys really know what they're talking about, maybe I call them. That's the outcome of those things. I love that.
100%. Yeah, that Donald Miller, if you haven't read his book, y'all should definitely check it out. Really, all of his programs are great. I mean, you're right. He simplified so much, like something people like to overanalyze and make so complicated. It's like, it's really not. Let me ask you this. Obviously, with great branding comes great identity. What is the power of identity for brands and businesses? And obviously, we get to nerd out on this a little bit more because you have that graphics background, so the identity component, it's important, right?
Yeah. So I love the challenge of, and we talked about me wanting to be an artist and how graphic design gives you these walls and boundaries, right? I love the challenge of visual problem solving. An identity is so interesting because how do I create an icon? Or a name and an icon and a descriptor or tagline composition that has the power of saying so much about my business and still being extremely simple. Identities cannot be complex. Identities, if they're complex, then they're not retainable. Okay, logos that are simple are they get literally imprinted in people's minds. Like the Nike swoosh is a perfect example of that. But here's what I would like to tell small business. The advantage to Nike is the billions and billions of dollars of marketing budget that they have that you don't. Okay. And I believe staying literal sometimes is very beneficial for an identity of a small business. Let's say you're a small business and you wanted to call yourself Nike, and then you put under just do it. And then you don't have a marketing budget to really saturate the market and explain to people that you sell tennis shoes and sports gear. Nobody's going to know what the hell you're doing, right?
Not at all.
So if you're going to call yourself Nike, at least put athletic gear underneath, and then right away I can see that that's athletic gear, and I'm not going to go and call you for a doctor's appointment, right?
That's right.
Because I don't know what you do, right? So that clarity is really important, and I think us creatives, we like to be creative, but can I still be creative and stay literal? Because sometimes I think it's essential when the name is so interesting or the name itself doesn't say what it is. Now, the other way around, I have companies that come to me with these really vague names like strategic sales solutions. Well, that's very clear, but there's nothing unique about it. How are you going to brand that? So I would encourage a person with a name of a business like that to get a little bit creative. Also, the market abbreviates. They're going to abbreviate and call you strategic sales, or they're going to call you strategic, or they're going to call you SSS, which is horrible. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
what isn't it, a German symbol or whatever it is?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But,
Yeah.
So you want to consider your name and stay as short as possible with names, right? If you have a business, like for example, I had a client called Architectural Materials Incorporated. Everybody calls them AMI. So we just branded them AMI, but guess what they don't do? Architecture. They build doors. So I put AMI, Complete Door Solutions, underneath.
Mm-hmm.
They
really
didn't have
explain
that with Architectural Materials Inc. at all. Nobody knew
No,
what
it's
they were
like
doing. You know what I mean?
materials makes me think of so many different applications.
I know. And
Certainly not doors.
certainly not doors. So, that is so important to have, an identity that speaks volumes about your business, right? For example, if you only serve commercial customers, I had a construction client, but they were getting calls from residential. Oh, I want to do remodeling on my house. Sorry, we only do commercial. Well, we solved that problem by calling them PBI commercial. And then, instead of saying commercial construction, we had a tagline, renovate, construct, restore, renovate, construct. So they did restoration, renovation, and construction, but only commercial. But it says PBI commercial right there. So all those residential calls, stop coming in right there. Yeah. So how can you, if you're dealing with unqualified leads, there could be a reason for that. And you can build it into identity. One other thing about identity, they don't float around on a white piece of paper by themselves, just bumping into people. They always show up in context, right? Yep. So, like you would see it on an ad, you would see it on a website, you would see it on a shirt with a person who is talking to you, blah, blah, blah. So there's context to identity. So, there's room to say more with a really catered headline or whatever. But I feel like, I should be able to tell just looking at the logo that this is a construction company, that this is a marketing company, that there's categorizing that needs to happen in my brain. So I'm not thinking that, I had the weirdest name companies like Ingenuity Solutions Corp or whatever. I don't even know. What is that?
Like, what do you guys do?
Are you doing medical consulting, legal consulting, technology consulting? What do you do? So, clearing that up is super important.
Yeah, I don't think businesses really realize how powerful just the name is, Mm-hmm. I'll be self-transparent here and say that like we get a hard time with beefy marketing sometimes because people are like, beefy, like beef jerky, or you guys only do marketing for like cattle companies. And it's like, no, like that's, we do more than that, which honestly, like our name is good from another side or another angle because it does require a lot of like, it's thought provoking. People are like, beefy, that's fun. Like, what is beefy? So we get a lot of that as well. And so there's pros and cons, but it really is, it goes to show how important your identity piece of that is, right? Like a company like Beefy Marketing or one of the other examples you shared, a simple tagline on the bottom that says, web design and branding simplifies that because people are like, oh, okay, Beefy Marketing, web design and branding, roger that, I got it. Right. I know what they do. So it can be that simple. But
even Beefy Marketing is perfect because I know what you do. You do marketing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to come to you and ask you to, to fix my shoe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, and I'm saying that some businesses have that level of, confusion out there that I really don't freaking know where to categorize your organization. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that architecture one is like the best example there.
Yeah.
Where it's just like architecture materials. The thing I think about is like sheetrock and acoustic materials. But I literally would not have thought about doors in the slightest. So that's a great example. Well,
and it wasn't in the tagline. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Nothing was in the tagline about
Yeah.
it. You know, it said AMI, Architectural Materials Inc.
Yeah, that's just too vague.
What?
Yeah.
Like, that's general. That's way too general,
You know,
especially
they
since
get
they have a
calls for
specialty.
like blueprints and all the stuff that they don't do. Like,
Mhm.
And they're like, why are we
and-
getting these calls?
Architect
It's like, well,
word.
because it's your
Well-
name.
I know, shocking.
Yeah, right. It's your name. Yeah. And that, that's funny too. And I won't go like down the rabbit hole, but I'll just mention it. Something as simple as your name also affects SEO.
Yeah.
I've seen companies that have
Oh,
a
yeah.
company name that when people are searching that keyword, their company's the one always showing up.
Mhm.
But then when they get to that website, it's like, oh, this is not what I expected it to be, which means they're going to have a higher bounce rate, which means their click-through rate's lower, which means from an SEO perspective, it's not going to score well. I mean,
Right. And name changes can be scary, but even
Absolutely.
for AMI, they can be Architectural Materials Inc. and then just do a DBA.
that's right. Yeah.
You don't have to you reinvent the wheel or anything like
Sure.
that. But
Yeah.
or if you went and originally they just went Architectural Materials Inc. They weren't even EMI, but everybody started calling them that, and and then they kind of were forced to put that in the logo. So it's like it's you have to know that if you have a long name, people will abbreviate it, and if they abbreviate it, or if you come up with a long name, you might as well do the acronym because they're gonna call you that.
Yep.
They're
Absolutely.
gonna call you guys beefy. They will.
Yep.
That's
You know?
and that's what they call us. Yeah.
Right.
We're just beefy.
Right.
So, this has been a great conversation, and I feel like we could go
It
on for
has.
hours because I nerd
Yes.
out about this kind of stuff.
I know.
But obviously, we're coming on to our time, and I want to be respectful of that. But I am going to put you under pressure for a second. So we have this segment of every episode of the show at the very end where we kind of ask our guest to give us a growth hack, something that business owners can take away from this episode. If it's only one thing, if they fast forwarded the whole episode and they got left with just the last few minutes, they took away one piece of advice or wisdom from you. I'm gonna give you the floor for that right now.
Okay. This is one word. Okay. And when I say the word, a lot of you may think, well, that's great. I don't have that, or I wasn't blessed with that skill or whatever. But before I say the word, I'm going to tell you that it's something that everyone can practice. Okay. And that word is empathy. Okay. As a business owner, and as somebody that you're interested in making your marketing work or learning about your ideal customer, one of the best things you can do is have empathy and see. Empathy really means you're putting yourself in the shoes of someone else and seeing it from their perspective. So empathy towards your customers and seeing what they see as you're delivering a service or product. Empathy towards your employees who are delivering that product. Are you asking them too much? Is your promise too high up? Sometimes it makes sense to make the promise a little lower and then just exceed an expectation, But having empathy, I think, will make your ability to lead better, your ability to make decisions better, your ability to see and learn better. And hence, I think empathy is a key hack in order to help your business grow.
That is good. Orshi, thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing so much advice with us today. We also had your kitty cat as a special guest, maybe out of frame, but
Just losing.
I think we got one meow early on in the episode just for you guys. So thank you so much for spending some time with us. Why don't you tell our listeners how they can support you, where they can find you, and what you have coming up next?
Our website is brand3.net. And if you go there, there's a schedule a call button that goes straight to my calendar. So I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone who wants to learn more. And I'm on LinkedIn. And please put my name because it's a hard name. But
Yeah,
you
we'll
can
we'll
find me
spell.
on
It'll be in the show notes. We'll put all the
Yeah.
links right in the show notes in the show. That way, y'all know what her website is, how to get to it, as well as the right way to spell. Why don't you tell our listeners what your actual name is, the proper way, without me butchering it?
My name is Orsolya Herbein, and it's not spelled like that.
Not at all. Thank you so much. We will be sure to put that in the show notes. And thank you guys for listening to another episode of the show. John, until next time, brother.
Next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Business Growth Hacks Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. To get more marketing tips and tricks, follow Beefy Marketing on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Beefy Marketing. And to take your business to the next level, check out our website at www.beefymarketing.com.